Anybody who wants to make donations to the university, make sure you earmark it for the men's crew team. The girls don't need the money, the women don't need the money, but the men can always use it. So
don't report that
Mike's been very kind to do this. He's a Notre Dame alum. He was a coxswain here for 4 years, and he's been leading the men since 2010. Is that right? 9 years?
Well, I graduated 9 years ago.
Okay.
I just finished the 5th season.
5th season, and they did really, really well. But I'll let him tell you about that. So if anybody needs a pen or paper, I brought some, and there's food for later. Okay?
All right, Mike, obviously. So the way that I want to run this is I'm just going to use the PowerPoint so that I remember things that we need to go over and stuff. But stop, ask questions. I think that this will work better if it's more of a discussion. I think that there's a very large range of experience levels here, people that have probably never even been in a boat before, and then people that have rowed but have never coxed, and people that have coxed a lot. So ask any question that you have, don't worry about it, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I coxed, I didn't start until college, but I coxed for 4 years in college. I actually coxed a master's group as well, my summers while I was in college, and then for a summer after college as well. So I'm a little bit familiar with the master's group, and I've done a lot of racing in masters and stuff like that. And then went on and coxed on the national team for the U.S., and then started coaching after that, and have settled into coaching and don't really plan on changing that anytime soon, unless somebody else has plans for me to change that. I don't know. Okay. So we're gonna go over we'll start with what coxing is, what your role is in the boat, and what you can do with that. But the thing that I think is most important, and especially if you're coming from a background of being a rower, you need to know your role. There are 9 people in each boat, and there's one coach, maybe multiple coaches in some instances, but usually one coach for you guys. Each rower has their own role, and it is not to be a coxswain, and each coxswain has their own role, and it is not to be a rower. So understand your role for that given day, and don't step outside of it. I think that's extremely important. As a coxswain, you already have so much to do. You have a million things coming at you at once. There's current on the river. There are boats all over the place. You are trying to watch 8 oars or something, whatever you're trying to do. There's already enough, so don't try to be the coach and don't try to be the rower. Try to be the coxswain and do your job. And so along those same lines, you want to be an extension of the coach. So you have a microphone, obviously, as a coxswain, and you're telling the crew things, but you want to make sure that you're not overstepping. You want to make sure that you're not saying something that the coach wouldn't say, if that makes sense. So reiterating what the coach says is always a good thing to do. And if the coach wants you to spin at this certain point, make sure that that's what you're doing. You're the extension of that. You're carrying out the general commands that the coach gives. You need to be the leader of the boat. This is very difficult in some situations. We've all coxed boats where there's some athlete in that boat that thinks that they've run everything and thinks that they know better than everybody. Yeah, it's probably Kelly, right? I'm just kidding. So we've all had that rower in the boat. You have got to take charge. And I think that even those rowers, they have way more respect. Even if they don't agree with the coxswain, they have way more respect for the coxswain that tells them to shut up. They really do. They're they want to be in charge, but they understand when somebody else has to be in charge, even if they don't show it all the time. So you need to be the person that is the leader and takes charge and steps up. Especially when there's a lot of uncertainty out in the water. Everybody has their own opinion on what should be done. Every single person on a team has a different opinion, and you need to be that person that says, no, we're doing it this way. So being the leader is extremely important. And I already glossed on this a little bit, but be the coxswain, not the rower. Don't sit there and try, everybody hates the coxswain that you just finished a really hard practice or a really hard piece, everybody hates the coxswain that says like, oh, that wasn't that hard, or something like that. And every coxswain has done it at some point, or they perceive it to not be as hard as it actually was, or maybe it wasn't hard and they're just telling the truth. But no, don't try to act like you know what the rowers are going through at that time, even if you have rowed before, because I think that just creates animosity more than anything, because they're like, you're not doing this, like you're sitting there, is what the rower, if there's an exhausted rower, that is exactly what is going through their head at that time. Like, you haven't done as much as I have. And even though I think that is blatantly false, that is what's going through everybody's head. There's not a lot of rational thinking going on when they're exhausted. Okay, safety is a coxswain's top priority. And I'm not just saying this. My rowers will probably laugh at this, not because we don't take safety seriously, but because I'm always yelling at them for more and stuff like that, and trying to put the rowers to a point of like an exhausted level where it's maybe not as safe, right? And that's my job. So as a coxswain though, it's your job to make sure that the boat is always in a safe position and it is not going to harm any rowers or the boat itself, right? So each of these shells cost what, like between 10 grand and if you buy a brand new one, like 50 grand right now, right? Or 5 grand, whatever it may be, and like that's really expensive. It doesn't matter. It can be the cheapest boat in the fleet, and it's still going to be pretty damn expensive. So you can't hit things. That has to be your number one job. And everybody laughs at that, and I get it, but it's not easy. It really is not easy to not hit things, because you have a lot of things going on. You have a lot of things that could come flying your way at different times, and like, I'm not talking like a goose or something. I think you just run through them, in my opinion. But like, so like, but don't hit anything that could harm a rower or a boat. That has to be priority number one, and that includes oars. I think a lot of coxswains they kind of like, if you say like, oh, you just hit that bridge. Oh no, our oars just hit it. No, that's not okay. I think that you need to avoid it with everything that you have, and try to avoid it with everything. Do everything you can to not hit anything, because if you run into a bridge and you're at full speed or something, that bow seat's getting launched out of that boat, or they're taking an oar to the face pretty quick. So make sure that you are always doing whatever you have to not hit things. And I've had coxswains, like, I am a really, really competitive coach, and I yell at my rowers constantly, well, when they deserve it. So like, I have coxswains that I'm like asking for a piece, and they know I don't want to stop, I don't want the boats to stop, but they will stop the boat, even if they know that they're gonna get yelled at because they're not gonna hit something. And they're gonna get yelled at right then, but they're gonna know that when I take a deep breath and relax a little bit, I'm gonna understand that they've made the right call. So even if like everybody wants you to continue on, but you feel like you're about to put yourself in a situation where you're gonna hit something, you can't be afraid to stop. You have to stop. Communicate with other boats. If there are multiple boats out there, like an 8-4, 2 8s, or like when things get crazy, like 2 8s and a 4 or 3 8s, this river that we row on is not the easiest river in the world to cox on at all. And there are bridges where only 2 boats can fit. There are bridges where 3 boats can fit through an archway. There are bridges where you might only feel comfortable putting 1 boat through an archway. You've got to communicate with the other coxswains, or if it's a single or a double, communicate with them and say like, hey, I'm aiming for the second archway from the left, or I'm aiming for this, or I'm aiming for that. If you can do that, you're going to prevent bullet point number 1. You have got to make sure that you're communicating, and like, if the coach wants you to do something and you feel like you can't pull it off, like, hey, go through the second to the left arch, but you feel like you would have to make this ridiculously sharp turn, and the coach has a different viewpoint, so he might not see that as well. Just say like, hey, is it all right if I go through this arch? You know, something like that. Just make sure that you're constantly communicating, because it'll prevent things from happening that don't need to happen. Stay on the proper side of the river. So out here it's the left side. You're gonna go to races where it'll be the right side. You'll go to places where it'll say stay down the center, whatever it may be. Out here, just stay to the left. And that there's it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Just if you don't follow the traffic pattern, though, you're asking for. Even if you think that it's really good to get into the habit of doing this, even if you know you're the only boat out there, because even out here, like they run bass tournaments on Wednesday nights, and they could come flying around a corner and have no idea who you are or where you are, but if you're on the correct side of the river, it shouldn't be an issue. It never is an issue if you are. And the reason why, like, we get a lot of questions about left-hand rule out here, like why is it the left-hand rule? And this was made before I ever coxed out here or coached out here. But even just myself going up and down the river out here, I think that a lot of the turns are much easier with the left hand, and there are less blind turns. There's one blind turn, and it's the S turn, right? Right at that dock, at the boat ramp, call that the S turn. We do at least. I think you guys do as well. So there's one blind turn if you stay to the left. If there's right, I think there's way more blind turns, and it's much more difficult going through some of the bridges. So that's kind of the reason behind the left-hand rule here, in my opinion.
I think a lot of the signs that are on bridges are wrong.
Yeah, they say keep right.
It says keep right out here. I mean, two of them maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So this should be self-explanatory. Stay clear of dams. Obviously, like you don't want to get too close to them. Even in a lot of, and this is just general boating, and but even below a dam is very, very dangerous. So there are spots where you spin them at the top of the river. We use the wires. There's power lines that run over top of the river. There are power lines right down there. We generally don't go below those. Sometimes we will, but I think it's a very good rule of thumb not to. And then there are power lines up at the top of the river, and we don't go above those, and that's more because it's really, really shallow on the right side. If you go above those wires, I can show you a shell that tells you why not to. It's got racing stripes on the bottom of it. Yeah, from Ross. So that's a good rule of thumb as far as our dams are concerned. You're never going to have any issues with dams as long as you do that. Bring your phone out. I think people are very hesitant to bring their phone in the boat, and I get it. There's water, and that makes sense. Especially if you are taking out a boat that doesn't have a coach, I think that is a must-have phone situation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that safety aspect of it as well. Any questions so far? Thoughts? No? Okay. So, along the same lines of bringing your phone, coaches always have their hands full, right? So let's say that you're out with an 8 and a 4, the 4 falls behind and the 8 is up ahead around a turn that the coach can't see, but the coach wants to hang out and coach the 4 for a little bit, right? No big deal, no problem. Boats can go off on their own, not a big deal. But let's say, hopefully this doesn't happen, let's say 6C has a heart attack or a stroke, whatever it may be. You need to get that person out of that boat, and you need to get help there as fast as possible. Imagine the amount of time it would take you to then spin the boat around, find the coach calls 911, and then you get to shore. Where if you could just pull your phone out, make it happen, drive the boat into shore, and boom, you're done. That's so much more efficient. So if it's like a one-on-one situation where it's like coach boat, no problem. I think you're fine without your phone in that situation. I don't think it's a bad idea to bring your phone, especially from the coxswain seat. The chances of it getting wet are pretty low. If you're in a 4, if you're in a bow-loaded 4, then yes, it might get wet. But I think the 4 that you guys have is stern-loaded as well. So if you keep it in your pocket, it'll stay pretty dry, and I don't think it's a bad idea. I really don't. With us, we generally have one coach for 2 boats, and they don't really split up too much. So we usually have our eyes on them, and coaching college kids as well, we kind of need to for the most part. So if there is an emergency, don't worry. I already said don't run into things. I take that back in this situation. I think that our coxswains are told that if you have any issue, if a guy has an asthma attack and we're not there, whatever happens, you pull the boat to shore and you get that, like, get to shore to a point where you can, like, identify and tell 911 whatever you need to do where they are, and go from there. But there's no pretty dock on any other spot in the river. Even that boat ramp, there's no good way to dock at that boat ramp. I'll tell you that right now with the currents right there. So you need to not worry about the shuttle. You need to run that damn boat into the shore. Who cares? And get the people on the boat that needs to happen. Like, because a liability issue of like one of our teams getting shut down is way cheaper than, or sorry, that's way more expensive than a boat repair is in any situation. So my advice would be, don't worry about the shell. Just get to do whatever you need to do in whatever the situation may be. If that does happen, let's say like you're in an 8 and 7C has an injury, has some serious emergency, row with who you can, right? You can row with bow 4 in that situation, get the boat to shore as quick as you can, get help, and just get the boat to shore. That's really all you can do. As the coxswain, like, you can't do anything else other than keep everybody calm and keep everybody on the same page. Because if you keep everybody on the same page, it's going to get to shore that much faster, or it's going to get to wherever you need to get to that much faster.
Mike, how deep is the river up by the shore? I mean, could you exactly
Yeah.
get out in the boat and
In like 90% of the river, yes. The only place where the river is really deep is the S turn. It's like 25 feet in the middle of the S turn. But if you're right there, you can pull over to that dock pretty quick, or pull over to that boat ramp. I think that there are some places where it might make more sense to go up 100 meters to where there's not a bunch of trees. Because I think if you just pull into a bunch of trees, you're going to end up getting yourself stuck, and you're not going to be able to get that person out of the boat anyway. So I think you need to find a bit of an opening. We have protocol on our launches on exactly where to pull people out if it makes sense, and our spots are, so there used to be an eagle just upriver from the Oaken Bucket. There's like a
sculpture garden.
yeah, okay, yeah. So that sculpture garden is a great place. That's one of our spots right there. At the very top of the river, there's another boat ramp right next to Cam's Island. So you can pull off there. The S turn is an obvious one, and then the YMCA is our other one. So those are our spots where if we have any type of issue, we're gonna gun the launch to the boat. We're gonna pull that kid out of the launch into the launch, and we're gonna get them to that spot. Unless the shell is right there, then we're gonna have the shell drive straight into that spot as well. So that's kind of our protocol. I think it becomes a little bit more complicated if there's not a launch right there at all times. And I think that you guys try to avoid that as much as possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable, unfortunately. Make sense? Yeah? Alright.
The other place that's where the shell is
RUSB.
north upriver from the IUSB bridge. That stretch
Yeah.
between those two bridges on the right side. Even when the river goes down, I won't let you row right along the shore there. But you can hop out and walk.
Yeah.
You know, get the boat close enough to shore there if you're really stuck in between.
Yep. Okay. Preparation. So, you just got to practice, you know your coxing, and you need to prepare yourself for the idea of like the boat coming out and all that other stuff that you have to do. Okay. I cannot tell you the number of coxswains that I have had that get to the dock, and this happens at least once every 3 weeks, I swear. And they get to the dock, and I'm already in my launch ready to go, and coach, my Cox box doesn't work. That drives me nuts because it is so avoidable, and with a little bit of preparation, you can make that so it doesn't happen. You know you're coxing for a day, you go grab a Cox box, the boat is upside down on the rack, you reach up, you plug it in, test, you say test through the microphone, works, done, unplug it, you're good to go. So does your Cox box work? Doesn't mean, does the actual display turn on? That's not working, in my opinion. your speakers need to work more than anything. I think that anything else not working is not a huge deal, but that needs to happen. So all the rowers have their job of like, oh, I need to bring a water bottle and make sure that I'm hydrated, or I need to have a snack with me for in the middle of practice, or whatever it may be, right? Or I need to get oars down. Your job is not in. I respect the coxswains that try to do the oars as well with them, but I think it is way more important that your stuff is ready. The rowers have a job and you have a job, and they're totally separate. So make sure that your cox box is ready and it's working. That's big. Now, some coaches, and I've gone both ways. It changes every year, it seems like, with me. So some coaches are very vocal about what they want out of practice. They will get you all down there, everybody will circle up, you'll talk for 5 minutes, and the coach will say, here's what the workout is, here's what I want to get out of it, so on and so forth. Some coaches will just say, here are the lineups, let's go. As a coxswain, I think it's very beneficial for you to ask the coach if they are not the type of coach that does that. You need to say, okay, what do I need to get out of this boat during this practice? And they're gonna clue you in on what their goals are for the practice, and I think that that's useful knowledge, and we'll go over that a little bit later as well. So you need to know what the coach wants out of the practice. This might sound silly, but it is your job to be the leader in the boat. So are your rowers like in the right place mentally? What do they want? Not like what do they want out of the day, because it's your job to make them do what they don't want to do, but like, are they, even just like as you get to know the rowers a little bit better, you spend more time with them, you start to see like, okay, this guy's normally like jumping around and excited for practice, but today he doesn't seem that way. So like, ask him like, hey, what's up? Like anything that you need from me, that kind of stuff. I think that stuff can go a really long way as a coxswain. So just being kind of observant of your crew and where their headspace is heading into practice can really help you out. Because if it looks like a rower's having like a tough day, they're not acting the way that they normally are, it's not going to help if you get in a constant seater and constantly badgering them to do something. I think that you can pick and choose your battles, and seeing their body language outside of the boat can go a long way towards which battles to pick. And we do the same thing as coaches. Equipment ready. I put in quotes, do not overdo this. You can overdo this big time. As a coxswain, you need to make sure that your rowers are getting things done quickly and efficiently, but you need to make sure that it's not like, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. I coach college kids, right? And we have I tell them it's an hour and a half practice. Our practice starts, you'll be back on campus in 2 hours. Does that happen every day? No. But that's my goal every single day, and I want to be as efficient as possible. And we're constantly changing lineups in the fall. If I get a guy that pushes off the dock and then sits there and adjusts his feet 1 click to bow or stern, or 2 clicks to bow or stern, I am going to lose my mind every day. Just leave it. It doesn't hurt anything. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to be the difference between you making a boat or not making a boat, or having a good row or a bad row. Trust me, it is way more on you than it is on any of the equipment that you're rowing, right? We always teach our rowers, it's the horses, not the chariot. And it really is. And so, I think as a coxswain, it's great to give hey, let's make sure our hardware is tight when you get in the boat. You need to give those reminders, because 6 guys are going to remember to do it and 2 guys aren't. You need to give those easy reminders, those quick reminders, but you don't want to say oh, your feet were here yesterday, do you need to change them again? There's no reason for that, right? I think that you need to keep it as efficient as possible and to the point. Everybody's smiling for some reason. We want, and I've coxed masters before, and everybody has to adjust, and I remember this, and I didn't know what to do with myself, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, so we waste an incredible amount of our practice time on the water. And I can tell you that if I was in the boat rowing instead of sitting in the launch I'm frustrated and I'm cussing and you can't hear me, right? Because I will tell you, you know, if you need to move your spacer, and if I don't see that and I don't tell you, you don't. Like, it's like you said, it's equipment horses, and we waste so much time and it's so disrespectful to the people I deal with, right? And as like, collegiately, they're incentivized to not be the holdup because they'll get moved down a boat if Mike sees them there. Here, I don't have that luxury. Or whoever's running the practice doesn't have that luxury to just sit there and deal with it. So we need to be like a little more just roll with it. Because we have broken so many foot stretchers because someone tries to fix them in the boat. You just can't tighten it the same way in the boat. You just can't. And we've stripped out our 60-foot stretcher now, and that's $300, right? So not only is it annoying, we've wasted tons of hours on the river, like hours at this point. We've only been out 30 times, and we've now wasted like $300 on it. So it's just something like, as you're coxing, if someone says you need to make an adjustment, it's okay to say, no, you don't. So, anyways.
So it's good to give reminders about making sure things are tight,
And
right?
I have something about that.
Sure.
I have reminded people, and sometimes people do not listen,
Yeah.
and we had an oar pop out of an oar lock mid-race.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the guys who were dealing with that kept rowing. They were able to focus on what they needed to do.
Yeah.
And the guy who was oar, he held onto it and he fixed it. But had that not happened, one, our time would have dropped, and two, it would have been a less frazzled race.
True.
So really make sure that when you say something like a good reminder, that they actually do it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, your conscience is clean at that point. I think it's kind of on them at some point to take their responsibility for their seat as well, and I think that some adjustments are definitely necessary in situations, right? But we don't want to overdo it, and we want to make sure that as the coxswain, you're not really telling people what to adjust. You're just reminding them of what to pay attention to. I think more than anything. Any questions? All right. So now that preparation is done, we can start touching the boat. Okay. I think that coxing, and I didn't know if you guys wanted me to go over like, oh, here are the commands that I would give to grab a boat or anything like that. Like, I think that all of that is pretty easily acquired, and like, obviously, like, the only advice, and every team has different mechanics on how they do that anyway. I think that the only thing that matters is that you are giving very clear instructions. You're trying to get sometimes 8 people to do the exact same thing at the exact same time, so your instructions have to be very clear and they have to know what's coming next. That is the most important thing. I think that it's really good. Let's say like you're picking the boat up and overheads, right? So the boat is down in slings, and you say, all right, hands on, and so they grab the boat, and then you say, we're gonna go up overheads, and you're giving the direction of what's coming next, and then you say, ready, up, something like that, and then they know, okay, here's what's coming, ready means she's about to say it, and now up means, okay, now we're lifting it up. So the idea, and some people will say like, into, we're gonna go up overheads. Totally fine with that as well. And then they'll say 1, 2. Completely fine with that, I think. I think as long as you're consistent as a coxswain and you give them a warning. I can count so many times where like, especially going to waist, like if a boat's going down to waist, where a coxswain will say down to waist, and then like half the boat will drop down to waist and the other half won't, and the bow hits the ground or something like that. That happens all the time, and you need to make sure that they expect you to say like, all right, we're going down to waist, ready, down. or in 2 we're going down to waist, 1, 2. Something like that. I think that as long as you give them a heads up before what you actually want them to do, then it's gonna be smooth sailing. It'll be very, very simple, and you won't have any issues. But they need to know what's coming, because rowers hate surprises, and they don't handle them very well at all. So as long as they know what's coming, you're good. Now, I already talked about know your role. A rower's role is to carry the boat. A rower's role is not to look around and see if the coxswain's doing their job right or actually heading towards the dock or anything like that. And undoubtedly, they all will do that. But you need to be the one that's in charge and very clear about, okay, we're clear of things. Especially that boathouse, like, are the riggers going to hit the sides of the boathouse as you're walking out, right? It's pretty skinny in there. And then, like, are there trees? When you're swinging the bow or stern around, is there a light post in the way? Is there anything in the way? You need to always. We have so many coxswains that we'll be at like the head of the Charles, and the coxswain, and it's very, very crowded. There are boats everywhere, there are trailers everywhere, people everywhere, and the coxswain will say up overheads, and they'll pick the boat up, and then they'll go down to shoulders, and then the coxswain will just like stop and look around and be like, Coach, where do we go? And I'm like, I don't know, you're the one that picked the boat up, figure it out. So know what you're doing before you do it. If you are in a foreign place and you're at a regatta and you know that the boat has to get carried down to the dock, have a plan of attack before you ever have the rowers touch the boat. The rowers are all making sure that their hardware is tight. That's all well and good. They're adjusting their foot stretchers, whatever they need to do. While they're doing that, you are taking a walk to the dock and saying, can I fit my 8 through this? Can I spin it here? Am I going to go down bow first? All those things that need to happen. It's your job to make sure that you have a clear path. And if you have a clear path, you're going to be way more confident in it, and your rowers are going to listen to it way better that way. So the rowers can't see anything. It's your job to make sure that they don't hit anything. On this team, like on Notre Dame men's team, if a boat hits something while they're carrying it, I'm never going to say anything to the rowers, because I don't think that it's their fault. I think it's the coxswain's fault. They either didn't give clear directions, or they weren't looking out for something, or didn't know that something was coming. So I think that you need to, and a lot of people use the rope, like, as a coxswain, I had no problem saying like, oh hey, bow pair, will you watch to make sure our bow's not gonna hit this? I need to go check out the stern. It's a 60-foot boat, right? Like, you're not Superman. So, like, don't be afraid to ask your rowers for help in tough, tight situations, but also have a plan for that. Hey, I need you to watch this light post. We're gonna swing it. I wanna make sure that the bow doesn't hit it, but I need to make sure the stern doesn't hit the boathouse. Something like that. So like if you have a clear plan for them, I think it works much better. Okay. Knowing where you can set a boat. So this is gonna sound simple, maybe, but when you are rolling a boat, let's say, okay, practice starts, you take the boat off of the rack. You need to make sure that you are putting the boat in the same spot unless told otherwise, right? Or unless there's a shuffle going on, whatever it may be. So know where you took the boat off of and whether it went in stern first or bow first. And that way you remember that and you can put the boat back in the exact same place and you know. And you need to make sure that the racks aren't on the riggers or anything like that. So pay attention to where the boat is before you pick it up, so that way you can put it in the same place. Let's say you carry the boat out and you put it in slings. Something needs to be fixed, whatever it may be. Know that you can't roll onto the skeg onto the sling, stuff like that, right? Know beforehand where you're going with the boat and where you're intending on setting it, and the hazards that could be in your way in those situations. My advice on this boat handling thing is have a plan before you ever touch the boat. Have a plan. That is all that matters. If you have that plan, you're good to go. You're not going to hit anything. It's not that tough. You'll be fine. Questions? Good? Alright. And if I need to go like more in depth on anything, just let me know. Alright, in and out of the water. So on the dock, essentially. Nothing really matters. Obviously you want to try to get like your bow pointed towards where you're trying to go. But nothing honestly matters to the coach probably, other than how you set the boat in the water. So, like, you walk it down onto the dock, bow first, you're heading out onto the river, you go up and over heads, and then the rowers have to roll it, right? And then they set the boat into the water. There are so many top boats that I've seen destroyed by being dropped on a dock or set on the side of a dock. It's not good at all. And even if it doesn't destroy the boat, it's going to wear it out over time. You need to sit at waist, and you need to urge the rowers like out and then down, not down, out and then down. Is a very, very important distinction there. And it's you have no control over this as the coxswain. You can't stop. If it's going down, you can't stop it, right? All that you can do is be clear about it needing to get clear of the dock before they set it in the water. The only risk is, so like, let's say I'm a rower and I'm rolling it in. If they start to roll it like this, the skegs are gonna stick out a little bit. It's very easy for the skeg to set on top of the dock without the boat setting on top of the dock, right? So, as a coxswain, what we teach our coxswains is stand at the skeg. You stand at the skeg, you have a very clear view of the skeg, no rower can see the skeg. So you know, if you're standing at the skeg, you can say, whoa, stop, wait off, whatever. Or you can, I've literally like grabbed the boat and pushed it out before they got finished setting it down. So if you're the coxswain, like stand at the skeg, you're the only one that can see that. The rowers can see the shell, so they're gonna try their best not to set it on the dock, but they cannot see the skeg. And sometimes with the roll that they have, it can make the skeg stick out farther than the shell.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when you come from overhead to side, do you actually pause and hold it at waist and then go out and down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, it can be too much momentum. It's hard to stop, right? So if you
Could you define skeg?
yeah, okay. So all right. I wish I had a picture of a boat. I'll find one. So you have the shell, right? The boat. There is a fin that's sticking out from the bottom of the boat. It's a big black fin. You can't miss it. It's the only fin that sticks out at the bottom of the boat. That is the skeg. That is your steering device. We'll go over steering a little bit later. So that fin that sticks out of the bottom, that's the skeg.
Boat to the long front, bow, stern, skeg, back.
Make sense? Yeah, we lose at least 5 skegs a year. Yeah. Okay, any question? You're at the same risk when they take it out of the water as well. The risk, I actually think it's way higher chance taking it out of the water because they have a tendency to lift it up a little bit, and then as soon as they feel it lift out of the water and it's a little bit comfortable, they want to pull it towards them, and so that skeg can still be in the water and it's going to sideswipe the dock then. So at setting the boat in the water or taking the boat out of the water is very good for you to be standing at that fin sticking out. Okay, steering. All right, I'm gonna give an advanced version and I've never coxed before version. Okay, I'm gonna start with the I've never coxed before version and then we'll go into the more advanced version. All right, you're sitting in an 8. You have 2 ropes that run along the sides of you. KB, do you want to check it out?
No.
Yeah, alright. You have 2 ropes that run along each side of you. or one on each side, all right? And there's usually like a piece of wood or a ball, something that you can grab onto with the steering. If you push your right hand forward, you are going to turn right. If you push your left hand forward, you're going to turn left. That's Butler's phone. Good timing. Right as you walk out. So, does that make sense? And then if you're in a 4, do you guys have any bow loader 4s? Perfect. Never mind. So, if you're in an 8 or if you're in the Fido, if your right hand goes forward, you're turning it right. If your left hand pushes forward, the rope forward, you're turning left. Okay? When you are first getting into coxing, you want to try to use that rudder as little as possible. And I think that goes across the board, really. So, the boat will naturally, well, sometimes depending on your crew, but like, the boat will try to go straight. It is 60 feet of straight, and it doesn't want to turn as much as possible. But it will turn. So, as you need to make adjustments with your steering, just try to move it a little bit, one way or the other. And don't overdo it. Don't try to overdo it. And if you are brand new to coxing, have never touched a boat before, that is the only advice that I would give you, is that don't think about anything else. If I have a brand new coxswain, I think that in the fall, we took a coxswain aside and told her not to stop talking because she just was trying to do way too much when your number one priority is steering as a coxswain. If you can get to the point where you are staying on the proper side of the river and you are clear of any bridges, you feel confident going through all the bridges and stuff like that with the steering, then you're good. Then move on to the next thing and start talking. I think it's very good to get the steering down first because you're going to be so much more comfortable. The talking doesn't make a coxswain that nervous. It's the steering that makes coxswains nervous. It's can I actually drive this thing down the river without running it into things? So it's not that hard, but if you try to focus on a million things at once, it gets really hard, really quick. So focus on the steering. Don't do anything else. That is all that matters as a coxswain, especially a beginner coxswain. All right. Okay. So for in the last point that works for whether you're more advanced or if you're just starting out, find a point. You have a good stretch on the river that's decently straight. Look over top of you, look around your bow seat, or if you can see over their head, I never could. But, so look to the right and left, find a point that's off far in the distance and just keep aiming at that. And that'll make sure that you stay straight. If you're constantly adjusting to try to aim at that point, you're good to go. This is even easier on a race course, I think, or on a big body of water that you might have a head race on, stuff like that. So find a point and aim at it. If you find yourself getting off of that point even just a little bit, that means that it's time to make the adjustment with the rudder, right or left. All right? All right, so now you're to the point of feeling comfortable with your steering down the river, and you're starting to talk, and so you can get into a little bit more advanced steering. What I would say first for a coxswain that feels comfortable is don't steer. Stop steering. Only steer when you have big turns, but don't. There are so many coxswains that are just back and forth down the river, and I think that's really good as a new coxswain because it means you're trying to see what's ahead of you so that you have a comfort level. As you get to be a little bit more comfortable in that seat, you want to stop steering. You want to just assume that it's clear ahead of you and know that it is, have confidence in that, and don't steer. The less you can use the rudder, the faster your boat is, and the better it is. And there are a few reasons for that. Now, that's a perfect world. That is if I had 8 Olympic rowers that are all pulling the exact same every single stroke, and I don't have that on my team, and you don't have it on your team. Let's face the facts, right? Neither of us do. So, if you are going to have to make adjustments, you're going to have to steer sometimes, especially out here where there's currents pushing you all over the place. Your best time to move the rudder is when the blades are in the water during the drive. When the blades are out of the water, unless it is like emergency or you're going to hit something, whatever it may be, obviously that throws everything out of the window. Perfect world, it's just you out on the river. You do not touch the rudder unless your blades are in the water. And if you are a beginner coxswain, like, ignore this. Seriously, ignore it. It's not that important. But when the blades are in the water, that's your time to make adjustments. And the confusing, you'll read this a lot in like coxswain books and stuff like that. That'll tell you to make steering adjustments during the drive. The trick is, it is making adjustments during the drive. Any changes. Your rudder can be turned during the recovery, but you don't want to change it during the recovery when the blades are out of the water. You want to set it during the drive, let go, and then when the blades come back into the water on the next stroke, then you can change it again or straighten it out, whatever it may be. So you want to make changes during the drive, not during the recovery. Does that make sense to the more advanced people that probably know what driving recovery is? Okay. And you make small adjustments. And we'll go over how to hold the boat to make sure that happens. And what I mean by small is like an inch, 2 inches at the most. Any coxswain that makes more than that is like, if it's not in a dire situation, is going to end up being that coxswain that goes down the river like that. Whether you want to be that or not, that's what it will be. The rudder is ridiculously powerful for how small it is. It's surprising. Yeah, it's like the size of a credit card, about 60 feet, but it can turn it pretty good. It really can. And keep in mind that every shell that you get in is going to be different. Some are going to respond quicker. Some are going to take longer to steer. Some you can spin it around in the river if you went full rudder by the width of the river. Some you'd have no shot. So like you got to feel it out. If you're in a brand new shell, launch off the dock when you're rowing by pairs, whatever it may be, fours. Like feel it out at first. Don't be afraid to make some huge turns early on just to see what it's like. Okay. Yeah.
I've heard before that the rudder is fairly useless until you're pretty much up to 6s.
No.
Not so much.
No, you can turn.
Okay.
Yeah. You can turn. As long as it's moving forward, you can turn.
Okay.
Alright, okay, so this is fine for beginners as well. How to hold the rudder. This is every single person, and you can do boat damage if you just grip these things and just go like this to turn, right? So right hand turns it right, left hand turns it right. If you just grab those ropes and death grip them, you are not going to make small adjustments. You're going to make small adjustments when you don't want to make any adjustments, right? So if you just grab those ropes, you are going to overturn every single time that you want to make any adjustment. Alright, so let's say that the boat is going this way and I'm sitting in the boat and this is the edge of the boat right here called the gunnel. Does that make sense? So like there's a lip on the side of the boat. What you want to do is you put these 3 fingers go around the gunnel. They grip the side of the boat, and then with these 2, you grab the rope, and those 3 fingers never move. Those are gripping the side of the boat, and they never move. The reason for that is you can only move the rudder this much every single time that you want to move it. It prevents any oversteering. Now, I'm going to be the first to tell you that when you get to the S turn, you better take your fingers off because you're going to have to turn the rudder the whole way, right? But in a situation where out here in front of the YMCA, you have a nice good stretch, you can practice that. You can do that. So 3 fingers around, and then you can make small adjustments, pushing or pulling, whatever it may be. I think that it's very good, especially when you get out on a race course, when you guys do like your 1K races, that is going to make your life in a course so much easier. Steering in a course is going to be way easier if you do it that way. You're going to be surprised. You're going to be afraid because you don't have as much control. But then you're going to realize, oh my God, this is so much easier. I used to go from booty to booty, and now I'm going fairly straight. Questions? Does that make sense? And if you're brand new to Coxswain, like don't worry so much about that. Getting comfort with the steering is way more important. Yeah. And I don't want to scare anybody about steering. It's not hard. It's really not. I'm probably making Coxswain sound very overwhelming if you've never rode at this point, but it's very doable. Okay, spinning. Your job is to be the leader in the boat, and spinning is a part of that. Nothing matters more. Every coach wants the boat spun efficiently, right? Spinning is a necessary evil on this body of water, and you have to get the boat spun around, right? Every coach wants it done quick. Doesn't matter to the coaches. Nothing matters more than everybody doing the exact same thing. It's the same thing for rowing in general. If everybody is rowing or backing at different times and stuff like that, it's not going to go quick. It's not going to work, right? So as long as you have coordination, it doesn't matter how you do it. It really doesn't. I'm going to give you a way to do it because then it will be coordinated, right? So get your rowers to do this, and your spinning will be fairly quick. All right. The real trick in all of this is as soon as you wane off, you know the coach is spinning because you're at the top of the river or you're at the bottom of the river, you know it's happening. You're 100% sure. Or you're 90% sure and you want to take that gamble. I respect that. Wane off, right? Rowers stop. As soon as you say wane off, starboard's hold. You're spun halfway already. You're already halfway there. It makes life so much easier. I yell at coxswains constantly who just say wane off and then they glide for a little while and then they have to side hold and nothing happens because it already stopped. So use your forward momentum, have your starboard side hold, and you're going to be spun halfway. And you're always spinning the starboard out here, right? Like there's no situation where you're spinning the port. Yeah.
Is spinning a fancy word for use turning?
Yes. So we can't use the rudder to get all the way around on this river. So you need to stop and then get the boat to completely turn around 360 or 180. Yeah.
I actually understood all this. I'm pretty good at spinning.
Oh, nice. Wane off means stop.
Yeah, we have a different class, so I understand.
Oh, perfect. All right. So starboard's hold, and then what we do, I think is most effective in my experience, is one side backs when their blades come out of the water, so it's not stopping, then the other side rows and alternating. Back, row, back, row. If you get them to, some people will do the backing and rowing at the same time, to each their own. You're splitting hairs at this point, but as long as everybody's doing the exact same thing, it doesn't matter, right? So get them coordinated, get them to do it. If you have to say, I've caught so many boats where I'm like back, row, and I feel silly doing it, but it works. It works. You feel like, oh man, I'm above this, but you're really not. Like if it makes the boat spin faster, you're not. And that's your job, right? Focus. Nothing makes a boat spin slower than all of your rowers stopping. Half of them are grabbing a drink. The other half are like, I don't know, flipping their hat around. Whatever they need to do, it doesn't matter. You need to convince them that their job is not done at that point and they need to do exactly what you tell them to do. Back row, back row. We don't let guys get drinks of water until that boat is spun around. Then you're good to go. Then you're fine, okay? So keep them coordinated, keep them focused, convince them that their job is not done until that boat is around. Or, you know what, if it's your choice and you want to have starboard's hold and then allow them to have a drink of water and then and then finish your spinning, great, fine. As long as they're all doing the same thing, it'll be quick. It'll get the job done. Any questions?
Just one other part of that is the most dangerous position you can be is perpendicular to the river, right? Current's gonna take you, you're gonna spin, boat's gonna go around the corner, you're 60 feet wide, there's nowhere to go. So that's why we say, that's why we say spin after, or do your water break or adjustments after you spin, right? Because, it's not because I want you to spin first and be cruel, it's because the fastest way to spin is to use the momentum of your boat. Weigh enough, let it run, starboard's hold, and you're halfway spun around like Mike was saying. So, but that's really what the driving motivation is, right? It's the fastest way to get around and get your point back. It's not a cruelty thing.
Okay. Docking. Every coxswain loses sleep over this concept of docking, right? I'm going to draw some stuff for you guys. So, there is a very, very fine line in coxswain between like looking like a hero, like, oh man, you nailed the dock. Nailed the docking. Sorry, I shouldn't say nailed the dock. Nailed the process of docking, or you literally nailed the dock, and you will forever be known as that person that ran that boat out to the dock. I've seen it so many times. I've been there. So, my advice is do not be the hero. Do not try to have that perfect dock, because it is great and you look awesome and you feel awesome, but that next time you're gonna run that boat into the dock and you're not gonna feel awesome at all. And they will forget that awesome dock that you had very quick. Everybody will. So, don't try to be, I think like, when I was a young coxswain, like, I remember doing this, and okay, Kurt was actually my head coach when I was on the team, and he probably wanted to kill me. I was this hotshot senior that thought that I was hot shit, and I actually pulled it off, surprisingly. I decided that I wanted to like spice it up a little bit, and I went all 8 and let it run and got on the oars and kind of like flew in sideways. And it worked, but he was probably wanting to kill me at that point. So, don't be me, seriously. So as soon as I graduated from Notre Dame, I went out and tried out for the national team. And I was super excited. First day, I was out in an 8, and I nailed the dock, like the docking process. Sorry, I need to get that straight out. We finished up practice, I went straight into the dock, no problem, brand new dock, brand new river, so it was gonna be tricky. And I felt so good about it that I was like looking for the coach was already inside of the boathouse. He didn't care. And guess what, I don't care how my coxswains dock either. Now that I'm coaching, I could care less. I couldn't care less. So like, you need to understand that doing it okay is really good, and not doing it well at all by hitting the dock is awful. But doing it okay and having to get pulled in a little bit is just as good as crushing it, right? Yeah, crushing it's a bad word for this too. So, go really slow. That's the only advice that I would give, is go very, very slow. And I'm gonna walk you through how I like docking out here, but go slow. I think that if you use your stern pair and that's all that you use, that is good. I think that is just fine. Every coxswain wants to try to get in a little bit quicker, but you're gonna save like 5 seconds. Yeah.
Can you explain to the stern pair?
Yeah. Okay. This will start my drawing process. Alright, I am not a good drawer at all. And this rabbit is on my way. Okay. Here's a boat. This is the bow. There's a ball on the front of the bow, called the bow ball. And the coxswain is sitting right here, okay? And here are your oars. so this is the bow and this is the stern of the boat. There's the coxswain, and you have 8 rowers. Your stern pair is the pair closest to the back of the boat, right in front of you as the coxswain. Your bow pair are the 2 that are right up here. So that's your bow pair, and that's your stern pair, okay? The reason why I say bring it up with your stern pair is because you can get all 3 of these oars over top of the dock while your stern pair is still rowing. So you can get a lot closer to the dock, especially if your stern pair is very weak and you're going very slow, you're gonna want that extra room. So, bring it up with your stern pair as you get close to the dock, and that's all the power that you need. I don't care if you are crawling forward, I think that it is really good to only come up by pairs. And yeah, it's gonna be slow, but it's gonna, what, like 10 seconds maybe? If somebody wants to complain about 10 seconds, they can complain about 10 seconds.
Are you steering at this point, or are you just?
Yeah, well, kind of. So we'll get to that. So, all right, we're gonna get to the dock. So let's say that the dock is right here. That's the dock, and here we are in the boathouse, right? So, what I would do, what I like to do, is come at it a little bit of an angle. So you're angled, you look like you're heading straight at the side of the dock, not perpendicular into the side of it, but let's say like a 10-degree angle a little bit. So there's a little bit of an angle, you're not running. The problem is, a lot of coxswains like to run totally parallel to the side of the dock, and the difference between ending up here and ending up here is very, very small. And you can't see at all, because your rower's heads are right in front of you, you can't see in front of you. You can see off to the side of you a little bit better. So if you come at it at an angle like this, you're setting yourself up for a much better docking situation. If you come at it with a little bit of an angle, and especially out here with the current coming this way, and you docking this way, it's going to be way easier coming at it with a little bit of an angle. Now, a lot of coxswains who try to be the hero on this, they have a lot of pride and don't want to use their rowers to help them dock. I understand that, but the further I got into coxswain, the more I used my rowers to dock. Okay, you are way back here, and you have 8 heads in your way. This guy, right here, has absolutely nothing blocking him from seeing the bow wall. Do not be afraid to say like, hey, bow seat, I'm coming in nice and slow at an angle, turn your head around, and if he's on the starboard side, great, hold water when you need to help swing us in a little bit, or if he's on port side and you're 2 seats on starboard side, then you say, tell 2 seat when to hold. They can see that dock so much better, and they can get it really close, and if you're coming in stern pair with a little bit of an angle, and you have your bow seat hold when your bow ball is 1 foot away from the dock, you're gonna nail it every single time. You're gonna nail the process.
And there's something to say about this. So if you don't have someone watching your bow, depending on the dock, and this is one of the kinds of docks that has this, there are gaps occasionally.
Yep.
And it is a metal dock. Metal always wins.
Yeah.
It is one. And so using your bow seat to watch, if there's no one on the dock, to watch your bow, and he or she can make emergency changes in that situation, it is very helpful and cost effective.
Yeah. Don't have too much pride to ask the rowers for help in this situation. They can see way more than you can. And it's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. You are no less of a coxswain for doing it. The best coxswains in the world do it. I'll tell you that right now. Like, they do it. And so, don't be afraid, and yeah, take that little bit of an angle and don't try to go totally parallel. And this dock is a little tricky, I think. So when I was on the team, we used that dock with the old boathouse. That dock is sweet. It is low to the water. It is easy. You can't hurt anything with that dock. This dock, you can hurt everything, and it's high. So you need to get your rowers to lean away a little bit, and if you lean away a little bit, that'll help turn you with that angle as well, and it makes it nice and easy. It's really not hard, If you go slow and if you are going bow pair and you happen to run into the dock, you're gonna bounce off. It's not gonna hurt anything. If you're going with your stern pair or bow pair, whatever it may be. So like, if your stern pair is rowing and you hit the dock, you're really not gonna hurt anything. So don't be afraid of it, but use your bow seat to help you prevent that. Okay? Yeah, so slow, use your bow pair for steering, stern pair for rowing, take that angle, and then space. So I know that everybody wants to get off the water at that point and they're ready to go, but you gotta leave yourself a little bit of room. Understand that that boat in front of you might miss the dock a little bit and they have to wait for somebody to come pull them in from their oars and stuff like that. So if you're hot on their heels when that happens, you're putting yourself in a bad situation. Because even if you have a great approach into the dock, you're not gonna have enough room to actually grab the dock. So keep space. Don't worry about getting too close to that boat in front of you. Stay away. Stay away. It's not gonna hurt anything. It's gonna have a minute or two. And if you're totally uncomfortable docking, like I've seen so many of my freshman coxswains run boats out of the dock, and we don't spend this much time going over all this with our freshman coxswains. We kind of just truck them in and say, hey, let's see what happens. We want to see how they react to it more than anything. And so, like, we have a rule with the freshman squad, like, you are not allowed to dock unless a coach is standing on the dock. So if you are uncomfortable with the docking process, like, wait until a coach or another rower is standing on the dock, and that way you can shoot it really wide and just grab the tips of your oars and pull you in, and nothing is wrong. Everything is good. Okay? Any questions? Yeah.
What other concern is the wake on this river when docking? If
Wake.
there's a boat running up and down the river.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't dock if there's a wake coming. Yeah. That should be pretty rare though. Hopefully. Huh? Oh, Wednesdays, yeah. 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 Luckily they don't start that tournament while we're still in school. I paid them enough money not to. Okay. If you are a brand new coxswain, I would say ignore this slide, because this is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more for the future when you're comfortable with your steering and you're ready to start talking. So once they get to that point, every coxswain wants to fix the boat that they're in because they feel like they can, and they can, and they want to, and they feel. As you become a better coxswain, the steering becomes something that you don't even think about, and you just do it, and so you're ready to put your energy elsewhere. And the reason why I put this in question marks is because sometimes it's actually not going above and beyond. Sometimes it's detrimental, and we'll get into that a little bit. Don't do too much. If you are trying to fix every little thing that's going wrong in the boat, you're not going to fix anything. So don't try to, in the same situation here, don't try to be the hero. Just kind of, if I were coxswain and sitting in there, I would pick one thing that either that the coach has already said or that I think is really hurting the boat, and then I would stay on that a little bit and be consistent. I think that coxswains try to do too much and they try to fix everything, and it doesn't help. This is gonna sound mean, but it's very true. The best coxswains are the ones that aren't noticed. If the coach never has to tell you to go to the proper side of the river, or the rowers aren't looking over their shoulders because you run into things all the time, the best coxswains are the ones that just sit in the seat and get their job done, right? And they're that's being a part of the boat, and that's being a very beneficial part of the boat. If you are like a coxswain that they don't realize, they heard you and like they listen and everything, but they didn't think about you in any bad way, like then you're a really good coxswain. You really are. So the best coxswains are the ones that aren't noticed until like they actually like reflect on the practice and they're like, oh wow, like she was doing a good job. Like I didn't didn't even think about it until now. Those are the best costumes for sure.
And my son down at Purdue, he never talked about the good costumes, and he always complained about that.
Yeah, oh yeah, they remember the bad ones. I'll go back to the first day that I coxed on the national team. The coach said I was excited and everything, and I wanted to get in that boat and make a huge difference. And I thought that I could. I was this hot shot that docks all 8, right? And the coach stood in front of me and said, pardon my language, but he said, I don't care what you do in that boat. You sit down, you shut the fuck up, and you go straight. And that is all. And he said, that's it. And the entire time, there was a coach that was dedicated to me that just rode behind the boat to see how straight I was going. They never recorded me once. They did not care what I said. They didn't care if I fixed the boat. They didn't care if I made an adjustment that made it go faster. They just cared that I was going straight. That is all that mattered to them. And the more that I think about it now, the more it makes sense. Because they didn't want that coxswain that tried to do too much. That was the coach's job, was to try to do too much. And so I think that the coxswains that are going in and wanting to turn that awful practice into something that is an amazing boat, that's a tall order for a coach or a coxswain. So don't go into it expecting to do that. If you see things going wrong, great, but don't go into it expecting to turn it into this amazing thing that it's not. So you coach the basics. As a coxswain, we have obviously you'll live close enough to Notre Dame to understand this, but we have such motivated kids. They are just running a mile a minute all the time, and the coxswains want to do everything. They are ridiculously motivated. They want to know the next thing that they can work on. What can I work on? What can I work on? What can I work on? It's oh my God, this is exhausting. Because I literally paid no attention to you today, so I have no idea what to tell you. I really don't. And that's a fact, right? Sometimes I'm out there with 27 kids, and so sometimes you have no idea what to tell them, which is fine. It's a good answer to say, I don't know. But as a coxswain, you can only see so much. There's a lot of things that the rowers feel that you can't feel. There are a lot of things that the coach can see from the side that you can't see, but you can see a lot of the things that are the basics that are the most important thing in rowing. Are the catches getting in together? Are the blades entering the water at the same time? Are they exiting the water at the same time? Is the boat leading to starboard? Is the boat leading to port? Is it perfectly set? Whatever it may be, you can coach those basic things. And it doesn't take coxing for 10 years to realize wow, 3 seats blade is getting into the water way after everybody else is. It doesn't take long to see that. You might see that on your first day in the coxing seat. Don't be you can coach those things. That you're not going to hurt anything, and you're only going to help it, and it can be very beneficial. Now, the one thing that I would say is at the start of the practice, if you follow my preparation slide, you ask the coach what the goals for that practice were. Reiterate those throughout practice. Hey, Jim, your catch is really, coach said that your catch is a little slow, let's get that in quick. You know what I mean? Those reminders throughout practice can go a really long way. I think that reiterating what the coach is saying is the most beneficial thing that a coxswain can say. And I'm not just saying that from a coach perspective, I'm saying that from a coordination perspective and making sure that everybody's on the same page and doing the same thing. Because I think that I'll tell you right now that I think that there are rowers on my team that don't agree with everything that I do as a coach, which is fine and very healthy from a team perspective. And you're going to get that on any team. It could be the best coach in the world, and people will disagree with what they're doing. But the most important thing is that everybody's doing the same thing. So it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong in the grand scheme of things, as long as it's uniform, as long as everybody's doing the same thing. That's the beauty of rowing. It's like everybody rows different, but as long as everybody in that boat is doing the same different thing, you're good to go. It doesn't matter. So you can watch like very elite rowing, and each boat looks very different, but each boat looks the same inside of the boat. So reiterating what the coach says is a good way to make sure that you're all on the same page, and that can definitely help out. And I would say like just pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on around you. What are the rowers doing? How are they reacting? This guy, we're doing 3 hard pieces today. Like after the second workout, I said paddle, and this guy basically stopped. Like he must be exhausted. Pay attention, because you can use those things. Like you can use those things to say like keep him in. You know you got to keep him in check on the third piece. You know he's kind of checking out a little bit. He might be really tired. You might need to check up on him a few times. Stuff like that. So pay attention to what's going on around you, and you can use that to your advantage. I don't think that being a good coxswain is that hard. I think that you just need to be observant and know what the rowers need at any given time. Okay, giving feedback. A lot of coxswains get into coxswaincy and they want to give feedback, and it's great. I think to an extent. I'm gonna say I put it on the headline for a reason. You better know your shit. Because the second that you tell a rower to do something and they are not actually doing that thing wrong, you lost your credibility. If you tell them hey, you are missing water at the catch, and you have every right to say that, or you're late at the catch, but you didn't actually see that, you're just saying it to fill in words, because a lot of coxswains feel like they need to talk. If you're just saying things without actually being 100% sure that that is something that's wrong, then you are putting your credibility as a coxswain at risk. Silence is golden. It really is. Coxswains love to talk because they feel like they need to. It is a very uncomfortable position to be sitting in the boat and you just being silent as a coxswain. It is very uncomfortable. But the second that you can get comfortable with that, you're going to realize so much more about what's going on with the boat. You're going to observe so much more if you just take a step back and take a deep breath and try not to talk so much. You are going to see a lot more, and when you do talk, it's going to be way more effective and taken much better. So don't try to overdo anything. Your credibility is definitely everything as a coxswain. It really is. You can lose it and get it back, I think. But you want to do your best to not lose that, right? And credibility doesn't mean I ran a boat into a dock, they're never gonna trust me anymore. That's not true. Credibility is I lied through my teeth, and they know, because they do. So make sure that what you say is something that you know and you're sure of. Same thing. You cannot go wrong by reiterating. Because then you know what? If it's wrong, the coach said it. They're not going to get mad at you. They're going to get mad at the coach, right? So you can't go wrong by reiterating that. If it's something that isn't true and the rowers feel that way, they're not going to feel that way towards you anymore. Which is, that's a good thing from a coxswain standpoint. It really is. There could be a lot of times where the coach is trying to get a rower to do something, and you're very familiar with rowing and everything. The coach is trying to get a rower to do something, and it's not happening, and you can see it as a coxswain. Maybe the coach is done, and they're moving on to the next thing. Maybe try wording that in a different way. If you have a different way of wording it, you're not stepping on anyone's toes, you're just wording the same thing in a different way, and that could be very helpful. And the whole time, if you're rowing and your goal was to get Jim to get his catches in, to have his blade enter the water at the same time as everybody else, and you keep saying, Jim, your catch timing is late, Jim, your catch timing is late, Jim, your catch timing is late, you are tuned out on the fourth time that you say that. Jim will not be listening to you anymore. But if you can word it a different way, then all of a sudden Jim is checked back in, right? So you need to think of different ways to word things, and that can really help guys or rowers stay engaged on what you're saying. So I heard you're racing soon. So those of you that will be coxing at said race, here's some like basic preparation for racing. Make sure you have a bow number. So in spring racing, so it's side by side racing. So there's like 3 lanes, 6 lanes, 2 lanes, whatever it may be. Everybody has a lane and they have buoys along those lanes. So if you are either in lane 1 or you're in lane 2 or you're in lane 6, whatever it may be, it is your job to make sure that you have a bow number so that when you cross the finish line, the people that are taking time know exactly which boat actually crossed the finish line. So like it'll say like South Bend Community Rowing, you are in lane 3. It'll have that on the schedule or whatever. So make sure that you have a bow number. That's your job, and like the coach is great for those things as well, but the coach usually is coaching multiple boats and you have one boat. So make sure that you have a bow number. They're probably not going to let you launch about it. Equipment check. I'm a strange person and I check everything myself because I trust my rowers, but I don't think I'd be able to sleep at night if something happened to the boat while they were racing because I didn't check it. So like I'm neurotic about it and I check it over twice, every single boat that launches. And sometimes we get to the race course at 5 a.m., 2 hours before any of the rowers do, just so that we can make some adjustments or we don't change things on race day, but like make sure that things are right and that they're ready to go. And we'll get there really early to make sure that happens. Now, you are all masters and your athletes are not college students and who are thinking about a million different things and stuff like that. As a coxswain of masters, I would always put it on my rowers. I was not that way when I coxed masters. I think that they need to take responsibility. They really do at some point. Like, just gotta figure it out. So I would tell each rower like, hey, you need to check all the hardware in your seat, make sure everything's tight, let me know if you need anything. And I would go off and do the things that I need to do as a coxswain. Does my cox box work? Am I getting stroke rate? Do I know the path down to the dock? That will be least stressful for myself and the rowers. Those things. The rowers should be able to check their heel ties and their equipment themselves. You just have to tell them to do it, otherwise they won't.
Mike, would you explain about heel ties and...
Yeah, so when I'm a rower and I'm checking over the boat, or a coach, there's a lot of hardware that holds the rigger onto the side of the boat. Do we all know what the rigger is? The rigger, okay, so there's the shell. Oh, marker. I'll give it somewhere I can't reach. Okay, so there's the shell, and there's the oar sticking out of the side, right? So that oar is held out by a rigger that sticks out of the side as well, like this. So the rigger is bolted to the sides of the boat. And basically the rigger is there to hold the oar for you. Okay? Good? Alright, so that rigger is bolted on with hardware. It's bolted on in the middle, on the bow side, and on the stern side. And that hardware needs to be tight and needs to be wrenched down, otherwise it could come off in the middle of the race. No bueno. So, if you need to make sure, the rowers need to check that hardware, and that means they just grab a wrench out of the toolbox, and then make sure that their hardware is tight. Heel ties. Okay, heel ties are there for if the boat flips, which if you are brand new to rowing and coxing, the cox boats don't flip. All right, let's get that out of the way first. They don't flip. A lot of people made a big mistake at exactly the same time for that to happen. And it's happened, don't get me wrong, but should not be a fear of yours, if that makes sense. 99% of coxswains go through their entire coxing life without flipping a boat. But if a boat should flip, the rowers, as a coxswain, you are just sitting in the seat. So like, you're good to go. You'll roll right outside, done, no problem. As a rower, you are strapped into the boat. Your feet are literally strapped into shoes that are attached to the boat. Your heel ties they connect the back of your heel to the boat, so that should the boat flip, your feet will come out of the shoes. If the heel ties are not there, your feet might not come out of the shoes, in which case you need to reach down and unstrap, which is not a pleasant thing to do while a boat is flipping. So those heel ties are probably not checked for practice that often, especially the big boats, and they aren't for us either. Sometimes we break them on purpose. But when you get to a race, referees will check your heel ties on your way to the dock. You'll get to a point where they stop you, they'll make sure you have your bow number, and they will check each heel tie. And all that needs to happen, and I think the rule is 3 inches. So if a heel tie is longer than 3 inches, they might make you retie it to make it shorter. But it just needs to be around 3 inches, and that heel tie needs to exist. Existing is usually the issue, not the length. So it's just making sure that each rower has a heel tie on each heel. Should that boat flip, they can get out. It's easy to get out. Good?
No, we know what it is. I just knew that some people didn't.
Yeah.
And Stacy knew what it was.
Totally. Okay. So you finally got off the dock. The stress of checking all the heel ties and the bow number and everything is done. Here, back to the actual rowing portion of this. So, race time. You know your race time. If you are a coxswain without a watch, you should not be a coxswain. That's my rules. You need to go to Target and buy a $5 watch. Yeah, phone's fine. Yeah, totally. Phone's fine. So, as long as it's not going to get waterlogged, it won't. So, know your scheduled race time. You have a schedule beforehand. You know exactly what time your race is supposed to go off. If you are late, it is not on any rower in that boat. It is on you as the coxswain. Now, in some cases it's on the coach. I'll be honest. It really is. The coach will launch you late. He will hold you up. They will do whatever. Coaches do things, and like you need to make sure that you are getting to that start line on time. Okay? If you don't, it is nobody's fault other than yours or the coaches in some situations. But if you get to that dock early enough, and I'm not going to tell you a time because it depends on the race course, but it varies significantly. But if you have enough time to get to the starting line, make sure that you are there on time. And in my eyes, on time means you are at the starting line 10 minutes before your race. Some coaches will tell you 5. Some coaches will tell you 7. Some coaches will tell you to get there exactly on time. You are not going to make any friends doing it that way. And the benefit that you would get from showing up right on time from a being warmed up standpoint is not worth it. As a coxswain, get there early. Who cares? Seriously. I don't think that it hurts. I really don't. If you were there 10 minutes early and you keep your rowers moving, when I say moving, I don't mean like rowing. I mean like just moving up and down the slide. You're fine. You're fine. It's not going to be the reason why you lose a race. Some people might use that as an excuse, but like, tough shit. Deal with it.
The moment the gun goes off, if they really want to be there, they won't remember if they warmed up or not.
Yeah, ideally. Yeah.
I mean,
So make sure that you're there a little bit early, and that way they can marshal you into the starting line on time, and the race will start exactly on time, right? Okay, warm up for the race. That is between you and the coach, and it will vary from boat to boat probably. So usually you want to make sure that your rowers are ready to race, right? So that means like taking a couple of 10-stroke bursts up at your race pace, walking through some start sequences if the race is including start sequences. Whatever you've been practicing is generally what you'll do in the warm-up. So I don't know what you've been practicing, so I'm not going to tell you in warm-up. You'll figure that out, and it'll be very clear to you. But make sure that your rowers are warmed up and they know what the warm-up is going to be before you launch. That's the most important thing, is that the rowers have expectations going in on what's going to happen once they get on the water. Because rowers stress over racing just like a Coxswain does, and the more that they know, the more relaxed they'll be. So information is huge there. Alright? Know the plan. Before you launch, you should know exactly what your race plan is. We're doing the first 5 strokes of the start, we're doing a high 20, we're settling into a race pace of a 28 strokes per minute, whatever it may be, right? Know what the plan is. That's all you need to do. If you know the plan, it'll be easy to execute it and you'll be good to go. Okay? So like I already talked about preparation. Seriously, Coxswain is all about preparation. Because if you know what's going on, you're going to be way more comfortable and you're going to be relaxed. If you try to fly by the seat of your pants, it's not going to go well. Okay. And then finally, you get into the racing. Stick to the plan. When your moves were supposed to be, whether it's at like 500 in or whatever it may be. And for the people that haven't rode, like a move is like, okay, you're racing side by side for 1,000 meters. You have plans on like, okay, we're gonna take like 10 strokes really hard, 500 meters in, or we're gonna take 10 strokes really hard, 400 meters in, whatever it may be. That's a move. It's like we're gonna take like 10 really hard strokes. Read the book Boys in the Boat if you haven't actually. They do a really good job of explaining that kind of stuff. So like, know what those moves are and what the race plan is as far as stroke rate is concerned, and stick to it. Because you have that plan for a reason, and it's most likely because that's what you've been practicing. And if you try to step outside of what you've been practicing, it's not going to go well at all. Strategize and improvise as needed. Now, I would say don't do a lot of this. Try to stick to the plan as much as possible. But you are now the coach. That, like, when the coach pushes you off on race day, he's got no power over anything. It's your game. It's up to you now, right? So that can be awesome and that can be scary a little bit, but like it's good because you can make changes as you need to. Let's say you want to win a race and you're sitting in second and your plan was to bring the stroke rate up 2 strokes per minute with 200 meters left to try to win like that was the plan heading in, but you don't feel like that's going to make you pass that first place boat, and so you want to bring the rate up a little bit earlier, that's your call. That's you. That's on you. So improvise as needed, because the coach is going to give you a standard race plan, and you're going to have to do what you can to try to win the race, right? Yeah, that's the fun part of Coxswain in my eyes. It's like that tight racing, figuring out like, okay, who's gonna make a move when, and are they gonna be ready for when I do, that kind of thing. So figuring out how to game the other opponents is fun. Know where you need to place. All right, this is gonna apply in some races and not others. Let's say you go race at Masters Nationals, which I've raced at many times. You are gonna have heats. So let's say that there are 12 boats in an event. The Masters Nationals only has 6 boats across. 6 boats can race at one time. So they need to figure out a way to pair those 12 entries down into a 6-boat final that has a chance at winning, right? So in order to do that, they have 6 of them race, and then 6 of them race separately. The top 3 from each of those heats go into a final. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So then you know who the 6 fastest are, and they race each other in the final. So you're racing twice. Now, that first race, depending on where you're racing, it might be beneficial to only place 3rd and not place any higher. Now, understand that if you're sitting in 4th, you need to get going to get into the top 3. If you didn't know that heading into the race, then that changes your plan and your strategy a little bit. So going into the race, especially if it's a heat, know where you need to place. If you don't know, I had a coach come up to me this year at our national championship, and he said, I don't think my Coxswain realized that it was top 4 that moved on or something like that. And I'm like, what? Like you gotta know that, and you have to know that going into it, and that'll adjust your strategy. Okay, a lot of pacing. Pacing is an interesting word from a Coxswain standpoint. You have your Cox box and it has a stroke rate for you. It tells you how many strokes per minute the rowers are doing, right? That is all the pacing that you have as a Coxswain. You don't know that Jim is going 75%, or is Jim going 100%, or is Jim going 50%. You have no idea. You really don't know. So how hard the rowers go is not up to you. It is your job to inform them how far into the race they are so that they can make adjustments to how hard they're going as necessary. Okay? So pacing is on the rowers, that's their job, but it's your job to let them know how far into the race you are. If you can let them know we're 500 then they know that if they still have a lot left, they know they can go a little bit harder, and so on and so forth. It's your job to stick to that rate that's in front of you on the Cox box and to let them know where they are on the course. And then it's their job to pace themselves accordingly for what they can do. Coxswains are very afraid of silence during races, and I think silence is fine. But if you find yourself wanting to talk, give reminders that you've heard in practice and stuff, like, oh, this guy forgets to breathe, or this person forgets to sit up, that kind of stuff. So give those reminders, and it will really help towards your speed. And this is a little bit more in depth and a little bit more like involved that maybe you guys want to get. But I know that with Masters, it's just as much a social thing as it is a rowing thing usually, which is great, which was the fun part of Masters for me. And like, I think use that time though as a coxswain, use that time to figure out why they're actually showing up to practice. Like, oh, why does Jim even come to the boathouse, right? Because you can use that in a race. Like, oh, Jim is a very competitive person. He wants to win this event. Or Jim thinks that Jim is racing in 4 different boats throughout the weekend of a race, but this is the boat that he cares about the most. Use that, right? You can use that as motivation in the middle of a race. Your job is to motivate the rowers as well after you're done steering straight. So, like, get to know them and get to know what makes them tick, and you can use that that's really good motivation. Just telling someone to pull harder never works. Never works. Go straight. I already talked about how steering is so important. Steering on a race course is way more important. If you can go straight, you are in the top 5% of coxswains in the world. And you are putting your crew at, in my eyes, way more of an advantage than with anything you can say. If you can go straight, you are putting them at a huge advantage, even no matter what you're saying. So if you go straight and don't lose focus on that. And a lot of coxswains ask me about steering on a course and like, how do I go straight? Okay, so here's my boat, right? And on a race course, some race courses have one buoy line that like split 2 boats. A lot of race courses, you'll have buoys on both sides of you. So you'll like come off of the St. Joe and you'll be racing your first race and you'll be like, oh my god, this is so easy. This is amazing. It's not the St. Joe. Okay, so ideally they're straighter than that. But there are tiny buoys on either side of you, and they go in a direct straight line for 1,000 meters. Okay? Your job is to stay in between these buoys. Now, I put the buoys, it's more like this, to be honest. You have a ton of room. On most courses in this country, I could fit 2 weights in each lane. So you have a lot of room, which is good and bad, because it means that there's a lot of wiggle room if you want to go side to side and add distance onto your, like, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So the straighter you can go, the better off you are. Okay, a lot of coxswains, if you are taller and you can see over your rowers and you have a point in the distance, a specific tree, great. I think that works really well for some coxswains. I could never see anything. I couldn't see in front of me, I could see nothing. All I saw were the buoys over here and the buoys over here. What I tell my coxswains, and what seems to be most effective for a lot of coxswains, especially newer coxswains, pick one buoy line and try to stay the same distance from that buoy line the entire way down the course. If you try to stay in the middle, like if you found any videos of me coxing, you would see that I am riding like 6 inches from the port buoy line every single time I race. Every single time. And that is because I always felt like it was more natural for me to look left than it was for me to look right. I don't know why. And I picked that buoy line and I tried to keep my blades the exact same distance from that buoy line the whole time. And that means I'm going straight. If you try to pick both buoy lines and you're looking back and forth, it's a lot. It's a lot, I think. Some people do it, and you'll find coxswains that are straight down the center of their lane the entire way down the course. That was never me. But I could pick one buoy line and stay really close to that the whole time. I think that that's an easy way to do that. Any questions?
This is kind of a dumb question, but so when you're racing, it's always, you don't turn at all.
Yeah, great. It's a great question because you're right and wrong. In the summer season, right now, the races are straight and they're 1,000 meters. In the fall season, which I don't know if you guys do it. Do you guys do fall racing at all?
The endings.
We do.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You guys are doing
We did a scoop bowl.
and
last
Masters
year.
Nationals this year, though,
Yeah,
right?
we were Masters
Yeah.
Nationals, yeah.
So, okay. In the fall, it is like this, where it is just like 5,000 meters or 4,000 meters, and there's steering involved. And so you don't have to worry as much about going straight. You worry way more about like, okay, how can I navigate these turns and stuff like that. But every race in the summer is a straight course. In the fall, it's also not side by side. So you don't have to worry as much about other boats sometimes. It's like time trial style. So it'd be like, more like cross country, right?
It's like
It's
a
longer
parade.
distance, turns, and like 30 seconds between boats, 15 seconds between boats. Yeah. So in the spring the summer is the only time that you'll have buoys though. In the fall, it's more just like open, stay on this side of huge buoys that just mark the middle of the river or something like that. All right. Questions on going straight into course? Nope. Sweet. I think we're almost there. All right. And now, this is a quick slide, but like, how you say something is way more important than what you say. I think that this is like, in my eyes, this carries through life, honestly. So like, how you say something to the rowers and your tone carries way more weight than what you say. I think that you can say something over and over, but if it has a different tone, it can be taken in different ways, the exact same thing. So like if you're trying to get them to be more aggressive and you get excited and your voice gets more aggressive, they're gonna get more aggressive. If you try to get them to relax, but you scream relax at them, nobody's gonna relax. So how you say something is so much more important than what you say. If you want to get them to relax and take a deep breath, you gotta do the same thing. If you want to get them to speed up and get excited, you gotta do the exact same thing. If you just tell them to get excited, but you say it like, oh, come on, let's go. No, it's not gonna work. Never. Right? So like, make sure that you emphasize things that you want to emphasize, whether it's like, we're gonna hit it hard at the catch or whatever it may be. Make sure that you have an emphasis in the right spots. Timing of your words. So let's say that you're taking like a move in the middle of a race and it's supposed to be 10 strokes. And so you're counting at each catch, 1, 2, you're counting these strokes out. If you count some at the catch and some in the middle of the drive or the middle of the recovery, it doesn't work, right? The way that you talk has to be in time with the rhythm of the boat. Otherwise the rhythm's not gonna work. So make sure that you have kind of like this rhythmic way of saying certain things that you need to say. Yeah, I already remember the calm, excited, angry. Okay, experience can't be replaced. And everybody can get the experience, you just gotta spend time in the seat. Even just a week in the seat, you will feel so much better. After your first day, you're gonna be like, oh my God, this was so much better from start to finish. I feel way more comfortable. Getting time in the coxswain seat is amazing. You can't replace that. You really can't. Having those experiences is gonna help you so much. And I actually think that coxing helps a lot in the future after you're done coxing. If you stop coxing, or like carries through the rest of your life, I think. Or at least that's what I tell my coxswains. It has for me for sure. So spending time, I think that on masters teams, a lot of people like jump between rowing and coxing. If you want to become a good coxswain or a decent coxswain, like don't be afraid to take advantage of like those coxing opportunities, because I think that you can't replace that. But if your goal is to become a faster rower, like great, then take all the rowing opportunities that you want, right? I think that, but coxing is the type of thing where I can't tell you something and it's better, and you need to experience it, and then it becomes better, easier. Okay, things I've learned, and we've kind of already talked about these. Stay in your role. Don't try to overstep the coach. Don't try to tell a rower how it is when, like yeah, sometimes you know exactly how it is, but don't try to act like it when they're in a tough situation or having a hard time. Going straight is everything, specifically in racing, it really is. Be open to feedback. So many coxswains hear that, oh, I need to be a leader. I need to shoot everything down. That I don't think that that's true at all. I think that the best coxswains are the ones that are open to feedback from coaches and rowers. And it's all about the platform. It's all about like how the rowers do it, right? If you do something in the coxswain seat and then a rower yells a different way for you to do it, or that they don't agree with it, that's not going to work. I would rip them to shreds if I were coxing that boat. But like, if a rower comes up to you after and says like, oh, I really liked this, but like, have you thought about doing this way? You gotta listen. Because they're not doing it as a detrimental thing. They're trying to help you out. And if you just get defensive and like, oh, I'm the coxswain, I know better than you, then that's not gonna work. It's never gonna work. But a lot of coxswains do take that role, and they should. Okay. We already talked about trying not to be the hero. I've won more races doing less than I have trying to be the hero. I firmly believe that. When I've gone into races and tried to do too much, it's never worked. It's never gone well. So when I was with the US team, we won the Head of the Charles one year. And every time I prepare my coxswains here for the Head of the Charles is like this massive race in Boston. I think it's the largest regatta in the world, right? So like, it is this huge production, and coxing it is amazing because it is a very, very difficult course. There are these really difficult bridges, 90-degree turns on the river. It is so hard, but it is super rewarding because you feel like you made a huge difference when you do well. And every time I go over this map, I have a map built out for all the coxswains in Notre Dame that ever need to race the Charles. That basically tells them exactly where to be on the river at any given time. And whenever I say like, tell the coxswains that, they're always like, oh, do you have the recording of the year that you won? And I don't, I didn't record it at all. And thinking back on it, I didn't say anything. I think that I said absolutely nothing productive, but I was focused on my steering and what I had to do. And I think it was from a recording standpoint, it was probably the most underwhelming recording I may have ever done, but I think it was my best coxing I've ever done. So I was focused on what I had to do and what I thought would make the boat fastest, and I wasn't trying to do anything more than that. So don't try to do too much. I think that if you go into it with just like, my job is to steer, your job is to row, I'm gonna do my job and you do your job, you're gonna be a much more successful coxswain that way. And I've already mentioned this at least 5 times, preparation leads to comfort. If you're ready for the race, if you know exactly what's gonna happen, if you know how your crew will react to certain things, you're gonna be way more prepared, you're gonna be way more comfortable. You're not gonna get worked up over racing. You probably get worked up at first, like I remember some of my first racing and I had no idea what I was doing, and I was super nervous. It was very nerve-wracking, but I survived. And it's not, the more I prepare for races, the better I got. And I don't think I got better in the seat. I got better at preparing for what was going to happen in different situations. All right, that's all I got. Are there any questions? Oh wow, that's a little longer than I thought it would. Sorry.
So Sunday,
Yeah.
it's 2 to 5, and we thought we'd actually handle maybe the fighter
Sweet.
and put it in and take it out and
Sweet.
turn it around and
Sounds good.
let people
I
try.
have my launch in the water still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you have a plan if it's storming? I saw there's scattered storms.
Do we have a storm plan? We do not.
Okay.
But you know, the South Bend weathermen are.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying bank on it, but
But that, I mean, if there's gonna be a big problem that morning, we may not be able to get on the water, but at least could do some things in the boathouse, I think.
okay.
I think it'll be recruited or rescheduled.
I think the boathouse for a short time is probably fine. There's not going to learn that much in the water, I think, other than if you can go for a whole practice.
We can go. Yeah, we'll get all the new people in and
I think it would be